What's up? What's up? Like, share, subscribe, all of that. So, the NFL Network does this list every year. I think they've been doing it since like 2011, 2012. The NFL Top 100 is supposed to be, voted on by the players. So they finished the list. Aaron Donald was number one. Have no problem with that. Most dominant defensive player at his position. It's not even close. It's a huge marginal gap between him and the next best defensive tackle, whoever that would be. My problem was, how the fuck was Drew Brees ranked ahead of Patrick Mahomes? Now, they say Drew Brees had his completion record. Hey, a lot of those are dump balls to Alvin Kamara if you really watch the games, I'm just saying. I've been more impressed with other seasons that Drew Brees had prior to last year. When they had no Pro Bowl receivers and the running game was in and the defense was in and he was still throwing for 5,000 yards, that was more impressive to me. But they rolled off like 9, 10 games straight. It was the hottest team in the league at one point. They peaked a little too early, the Saints. That's just why I think they didn't make it past the playoffs in round 2. They got screwed in the NFC title game. But Drew Brees only threw 32 touchdowns, despite all of that. Despite having a great running back in Kamara and a Pro Bowl receiver who just has the biggest contract in NFL history for a wide receiver, Michael Thomas. Patrick Mahomes was the MVP. I've never seen anyone on this list not win MVP and not be ranked number one. It goes back to when Adrian Peterson won MVP and was ranked number one years ago. I'm like, how is the MVP? Is 3 players better than the reigning MVP? Khalil Mack, I'm sorry. I like Khalil Mack. He really changed the culture back in Chicago. They back to playing defense and the monsters of the Midway. Khalil Mack was not better than Patrick Mahomes last year. And Drew Brees was not. Drew Brees threw 32 touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes threw 50. I'm not a Chiefs fan, but I just don't see how he was 2 spots ranked above. He wasn't the best quarterback in the whole league last year, let alone 2 spots number 2. I think the way they voted for this was based off legendary status, because that's what it is. Drew Brees is a living legend. Some of these players just don't want to give the new kid on the block his credit, and Patrick Mahomes. They want to kind of, he was already humbled the way he lost the AFC title game, didn't get a chance through the overtime rules. But it's just something about, we don't want to gas up the new kid, but so much. And then sympathy. I mean, a lot of people would agree the Saints got screwed in the NFC title game versus the Rams. So maybe that's a big reason why Drew Brees got the notch over not only Patrick Mahomes, but Brady and Rodgers. But statistically, Drew Brees wasn't that much better than Brady or Rodgers. And he definitely wasn't better than Pat Mahomes. So that was my issue with the list. I'm like, y'all are tripping. I'm like, Red? I was like, I had to keep rubbing my eyes looking. I was like, did they really just do that? Like, the MVP is 3 better. So it takes credibility from the MVP then. Either this list has no credibility or the MVP award has no credibility. Because how is the MVP, who's supposed to be the best player of the league in that particular season, there's 3 players better than the MVP? Nah, and this list, I mean, some people take it as whatever. It's supposed to be voted by players, so it's supposed to have credibility, but it's really just a list to kind of get the juices flowing so you could get amped up for the season coming up in less than a month. And it starts controversy and barbershop talk. But I really was like, wow, they really they did my homeboy wrong. He's on the cover of Madden. Maybe it's the Madden curse. They think he's gonna fall off. I don't know. Maybe it's because there's only 1 year of film on him, and Drew's been doing it for 17 years. But I think it was based off legendary status because he's Drew fucking Brees, and the sympathy from the NFC title game. It had to be, because there was no way you could think he had a better season than Pat Mahomes. We're not saying Pat Mahomes is better than Drew Brees all time. But if you're going to rank the 2018 season, Pat was better. Facts. You know what I mean? I'm like, how many games? I watched at least 8 or 9 Kansas City Chiefs games in full in its entirety last year, and about 7 Saints games. The eye test was like, yo, Pat Mahomes was better. I know you could say he's, Andy Reid and Sean Payton are on the same level, I guess. Obviously, Sean Payton's won a title, Andy hasn't. But as far as play calling, Pat does have the edge in playmakers slightly. But I was like, no, they got that wrong. All the way wrong. I was like, y'all are bugging. That list is crazy.